What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so before I get into this video, I want to give a big shout out to the man, the myth, the legend, the brother Robert Mason coming through with another donation via the PayPal. Salute to you, brother, for showing love to Too Raw for TV. Now, before I go further, I want to play a clip of a discussion that they had today on ESPN First Take in regards to this upcoming Super Bowl, which will be between, now we know Super Bowl 59 will feature the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, you guys know how I feel about yesterday's game. I believe the game was heavily rigged in the Chiefs' favor. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to leave it alone right now, set it aside, and focus on what they were talking about. Now, they were talking about the pursuit of a three-peat by Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Stephen Smith said something in this particular clip about Patrick Mahomes. If he were able to achieve the three-peat, he would be, in his eyes, the greatest quarterback of all time.
How epic would a three-peat be?
It would be epic. There's no question about it, because it's never been done in the history of football. And so when you got a situation, particularly with how we talk about today's game, although it's been softened to some degree because you got rules and regulations that have invaded the proceedings and essentially it took away some of the roughhouse tactics. The bottom line is it's still the most physical game out there. This is National Football League. And to be in this era with these outstanding athletes, the way the game has evolved and the kind of athletes that you have to go up against, to repeat 1, 2, 3, to three-peat as a Super Bowl champion all of those years, especially when you consider it's the same quarterback, it's the same tight end, it's the same head coach, it's the same defensive coordinator. When you look at these guys, somehow, some way you would think at some point somebody would answer the call. Yeah. If you fail to do so and they win a three-peat, Tom Brady didn't even win back-to-back Super Bowl titles. It would be huge for the sport. It would be huge for the city. It would be huge for the franchise. And it would cement Patrick Mahomes as the greatest quarterback in the history of the National Football League.
Now, shout out to my Patreon subscriber who told me about this, because I rarely watch ESPN First Take because I just can't stomach it. But every now and then they do say something that's interesting for me to talk about. Notice most people don't refer to Patrick Mahomes as the LeBron James of the NFL. They'll say the Michael Jordan of the NFL. Nobody ever calls someone who is extraordinarily great at their craft the LeBron James of anything. They say the Michael Jordan of XYZ or ABC. Okay? But look, he said if Patrick Mahomes three-peats, that will establish him as the greatest quarterback of all time, even over Tom Brady, who statistically, having played 23 years, dwarfs Patrick Mahomes' numbers, right? But in this situation, it's about winning and winning consistently. A three-peat has never been achieved in the NFL. It has been achieved in the NBA, but rarely. George Mikan's Lakers did it. Bill Russell's Celtics, of course, won 11 championships in his 13-year career. At one point, they won 8 in a row. Shaq and Kobe's Lakers did it. And of course, Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls, along with Scottie Pippen, did it 2 different times. Jordan's Bulls are the only one to do it 2 different times. And even with George Mikan's Lakers and Bill Russell's Celtics, the competition was, let's just say, lopsided in their favor. There were fewer teams, which is not necessarily a bad thing because you could look at it as, well, fewer teams mean that the talent pool isn't stretched as thin. But the Celtics had a super team, and the Minneapolis Lakers had a team that was far, far more talented than everybody else in the early 1950s. Michael Jordan, on the other hand, as well as Shaq and Kobe, achieved their three-peats in a league that was far more competitive, with the talent spread out much further out, and other teams were just as qualified. And I would argue with the Chicago Bulls three-peats, even more so than Shaq and Kobe, there were many times when the Bulls were not on paper the most talented team in the NBA. They were not. They were not the most talented. As a matter of fact, contrary to popular belief, the Bulls were not the favorites every time they went to the finals. They were not the favorites in 1993, and they were not the favorites in 1998. And they played against the best Utah Jazz team ever. In 97, they won 64 games. In 98, they won 62 games. They played against a Sonics team that won 64 games in 1996, a Suns team that won 62 games in 1993, a Portland Trailblazers team that I think won 61 games, if I'm not mistaken, in 1992, and a Lakers team under Magic Johnson that won 58 games. So they weren't going up against, a team like Denver a couple of years ago when they played a play-in team, the Miami Heat, or an 8th seed in the NBA Finals. No, they were going up against the best competition of the Western Conference of those years. Also, like Stephen A. Smith said, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs have consistently won with the same organization and the same unit, not team hopping, not loading and stacking the deck. Consistency with basically the same personnel. Sort of like how Michael Jordan basically won in the first three-peat with the unit of himself, Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant, Bill Cartwright, and John Paxson. That's pretty much the team, right? In the second three-peat, it was Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Ron Harper, Luke Longley, Dennis Rodman, with Tony Kukoc more or less coming off the bench. That was the unit all those years. You didn't see the media making a push for this guy to sign or that guy to sign, or, they could show up. Look, when they won that bubble title, LeBron and company, right? They got greedy and wanted to, instead of come back with the same team, the GM wanted to totally retool the team and make them this super offensive squad, totally lost their identity. But, he never caught flack for that. And the fact that Patrick Mahomes is being called the GOAT, or on the verge of being called the GOAT over Tom Brady, like who I said, has all these amazing gaudy numbers. But with football, it's about winning. With baseball, it's about winning. Only with the media are they trying to make it about stats. Nobody considers Emmitt Smith the greatest running back of all time. Even though Pete Rose is the hit king, nobody considers him the greatest hitter of all time. Hank Aaron has more RBIs than anybody else, but nobody considers him the greatest driver in or the greatest. What's the term I'm looking for in baseball? Nobody considers him the greatest driver in of runs we've ever seen. Most people consider that to be probably Lou Gehrig or Babe Ruth. So only in the NBA has it been slandered that it's all of a sudden about stats. Because when it comes to winning, LeBron Ramon James comes up short. When it comes to winning, despite stacking the deck, he comes up woefully short. Period. So when they made their argument for Patrick Mahomes, they inadvertently made a strong argument against LeBron James being the GOAT in the NBA. Because the only time he ever repeated was when he was playing with the Miami Heat, which was a team playing in the weakest Eastern Conference since the 1950s. And even then they underachieved. And many people tell you that 2012 NBA Finals was rigged. That's how look, we talk about the New England we talk about the Kansas City Chiefs getting saying favorable calls. Go back in that 2012 NBA Finals and check something out here. Kevin Durant has always been a very cautious player, I think we'll say, right? Kevin Durant's never been a guy that draws a lot of fouls. Generally in his career, regular season and playoffs, he averages right around 2 fouls per game. But for some reason in 2012 NBA Finals, Kevin Durant averaged almost 4 fouls a game, I should say. 4 fouls. Why inexplicably in this series is Kevin Durant drawing all these fouls when in any other series in his career, in any other playoff series, any other season, he's usually averaging around 2 fouls a night? Even with the stacked deck team, the NBA or the WWE NBA had further rig it just so he can win 2 out of 4 finals on a stacked team in a conference where the only competition he had after that Celtic team broke up was Paul George and the Pacers and DeMar DeRozan and the Raptors. That's it. You know what I'm saying? The Bulls had to go up against the bad boy Pistons, that Cavaliers team in the late 80s, the New York Knicks, Reggie Miller's Pacers. You know what I'm saying? The Miami Heat when Pat Riley got there, Grant Hill and the Pistons, Glenn Rice and the Hornets. You know what I'm saying? That young, dynamic Wizards / Bullets team that could have been the team of the future with Juwan Howard and Chris Webber and Rod Strickland and Tracy Murray, Calbert Chaney. That young feisty Nets team that had Sam I Am, Kendall Gill, Jason Williams, Keith Van Horn, Kerry Kittles. But anyway, that's all I got to say about it. Tell me what you guys think.